Come on, Prem. Drought life will soon be over, right? It's December 2021's right around the corner. Come on. This will soon be over. You'll get real news. Okay. Just one more video. Okay, just one more. Alright, so take this with more salt than a classic Sonic fan in 2010. But we have to talk about this. I mean, mainly because, you know, we are in a drought, so we are going to talk about little speculation things like this. And on top of that, this is a topic that is, of course, near and dear to my heart as someone who is a huge fan of Sonic 06. If you don't already know, for some reason, yes, that is my second favorite Sonic game. What did you mean by that, Prem? It's 06. Yes. We're not getting into that. I made a whole video on that. But someone on Twitter is trying to convince me, apparently, that 06 may be getting backwards compatibility on the Xbox Series X. Now, this is different from a port, because a port would actually involve Sega having to put in some actual fucking effort, which, I mean, they wouldn't even port Colors, which was so well received and seen as a savior of the franchise after Unleashed, which I don't agree with, but they wouldn't even port that to anything, you know? That's still running at 480p 30 FPS, you know, if you play it legally. You know, if you play it on emulator, you could get it to 60 FPS, 4K, whatever. But the fact that they don't even port games like Colors and, you know, stuff like that. Gens didn't get a PS4 port, you know, like all these kind of things. The fact that all of these things weren't done, for them to actually port 06, I don't see that happening. But with backwards compatibility, Sega don't have to do the work. Microsoft, with their own backwards compatibility that they've leveraged, which allows them to play 360 games on the Series X, Xbox One games, and even a few original Xbox games, but not Sonic Heroes because apparently Microsoft hate goats, means that they could get certain games running on the Series X. Now, if you guys remember when the Xbox One X came out, we got backwards compatibility of Sonic Generations, and it was running at, I think it was 4K on Xbox One X, and it's running at 4K on Series X as well. And the Unleashed fans said we want Unleashed as well, and eventually they caved, and we got Sonic Unleashed running on Xbox One X, as well as now Xbox Series X, and the frame rate had been improved too. So maybe they just want to finish the trilogy of 360 games of Sonic, and just, I mean, there were other games, but you know, the main titles, and just add 06 as well. Like they got Unleashed, which Unleashed was worse received than 06, and I know what you're thinking, according to Metacritic, if you were in the 2000s, you remember that the only two reviewers that mattered back then were IGN and GameSpot. Their word was like law back then. There was no Metacritic to get more wide variety of opinions. And back then, those two reviewers gave Unleashed a lower score than 06, so it was seen as worse by the general public because of that. But obviously more fans preferred Unleashed over 06. My point is that if Unleashed was able to get backwards compatibility on the Series X, it's not out of the realm of possibility for 06 to be added as well. But these points are not the reason why I made the video. The video is being made because someone has tweeted me saying that they were talking to Microsoft support, and apparently 06 is coming to backwards compatibility according to this guy. Like, I looked at the messages at first and I was like, yeah, this is probably Photoshop or, you know, view source, you know, and he was very adamant trying to convince me that it was legitimate, even sending me the link to the chat, and he even went back and started the conversation again just to try and prove it. Now again, I'm not gonna sit here and act like this is confirmed information, but we're gonna go through the images and discuss. So it seems like he's talking about a next gen Sonic game, but after that he says, so the next Xbox update will have Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 from the Xbox 360 added to the backwards compatibility list. And then the guy goes, yes, there are big plans for that. I cannot assure, but there will be new updates coming soon. And the guy asks, when is the next update? And he says, there isn't a specific date, but should be by January next year, 2021. Again, like, you can view source this, you can Photoshop this. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, this is fact. But when I called him out on it, he did go back in and go into the conversation again and ask again, and basically made another request for 06 on Xbox Series X. And they said, once I've brought this up to the dev team, they will properly consider it due to high demand of it wanting to be backwards compatible. We steadily post for coming games to gold and new games to be released on, okay. So again, this is not some super concrete thing, okay? I'm just putting that out there. But as I've said before, the possibility is there. I mean, they did the other two. If they did Unleashed which was in a similar level of reception to 06 at the time when it came out, then 06 is not out of ROM, especially since it's backwards compatibility. All they have to do is just put it on there, and there's going to be certain improvements off the bat. It's not like PS Now, which they actually put 06 on PS Now, but only the Japanese version. Apparently, according to some Japanese people on Twitter, 06 was not as poorly received in Japan, so they put it on the Japanese PS Now. I had to go through hoops to try and get that thing working. I eventually got it working, but they never put it on like the European or the Western PS Now, essentially. So this means two things. It means that one, Sega are not standing in the way of this happening as long as they don't have to do the work themselves. Shocker. And two, it means that if they want to do it, they can do it. If they did Unleashed, even though Unleashed I don't think got a resolution bump, Gens was running at 4K. I don't think Unleashed got a resolution bump, but if they do 06, there's a good chance that one, the load times are going to be dramatically cut down, because I've been playing 06 on emulator, which is the footage you're seeing right now, and the load times are cut to under 4 seconds just by running on emulator. And this is on a hard drive, it's not even on an SSD. So by putting on a Series X, load times are going to be dramatically cut, which was a big issue. Slowdown, which wasn't as bad on the 360 port, the PS3 port had the worst slowdown, but whatever slowdown was left should be instantly fixed. And because that game was only capped at 60 and not 30, it's going to run at basically a smooth 60, because the Unleashed pack was compatible on Series X. That is now running at a consistent 30 because the frame rate just improved by being a more powerful hardware. But because the game was capped on the 360 version of Unleashed, it means that we don't have a 60 FPS Unleashed officially. But with 06, we could effectively get 60 FPS 06 on the Series X if they decided to do this backwards compatibility. At that point, you've got smooth 60, you've got dramatically cut down load times. All that's left is for them to essentially upscale it to 4K, and you have an official way to play 06 at 4K 60 FPS with fast loads, instead of just, relying on the emulator, which emulator is not fully ready yet, so there's some certain artifacts and stuff. So if this were to happen, this would be the definitive way to play 06. The way that a lot of new Sonic fans would play it, and maybe they wouldn't get why everyone was so mad at it before, although the glitches will still be there for, a lot of fans who don't have a high tolerance level for glitches like I do personally. I mean, 2010 Sonic fans, they're from a different era, they don't remember. At the time when 06 came out, which was now like the halfway point of the franchise, because Sonic's about to be 30. At that point, that was essentially the lowest point of the franchise, considered by many. But since these past 15 years that we've gotten arguably weaker games, like Lost World, a lot of people didn't like that. Rise of Lyric was reviewed worse than 06 by critics and fans. And then Forces, there's a huge debate on whether that's better or worse than 06. So the fact that there's so many contenders now, 06 doesn't seem so bad in the context of the whole franchise now. It's kind of interesting how people's opinions have changed over time. I've always been 06 since day zero, but for you lot, opinions have been changing all over the place. But it's interesting to see if this does happen, if this gets announced in January. That's pretty much an amazing start to 2021 as a Sonic fan. As a way to end the drought, the first thing they do is go 06 getting a 4K 60 version with fast loads. I mean, I don't have an Xbox Series X, but I'm not saying I'm gonna cop a Series X just to play 06 in 4K 60. I ain't gonna do that shit, but it's a good move if they were to do that. So this is very interesting. Let me know what you guys think about this. Obviously, grains of salt. This is not confirmed information, but I thought I might as well talk about it because it is something that I really do want to see. And if you guys want to see it as well, maybe you can bring it up to Microsoft as well, and we'll see if they eventually cave. As for Sony, they've decided that backwards compatibility doesn't matter to them because they'd rather just forget about it, and any games that people really liked from those generations, they just remaster and remake and just sell it to you again. So yeah. But yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, subscribe to the Non-Sonic channel, link in the description. But that's all I have to say right now, so Remy out.